Formula One is highly likely to receive a change in the sprint format, as Stefano Domenicali suggested that this aspect of the sport is being worked heavily on. The F1 president is holding serious talks with F1 drivers and team principals in order to make the show more entertaining. But are his proposals really going to help the sport? With a reverse grid also in play, will the fun of qualifying be ruined just to score more points on Saturday? And more importantly, are the F1 drivers on board with all the latest changes that Domenicali suggested? The situation between Domenicali and the F1 drivers regarding the sprint races has always been a controversial topic. But with the latest format change, it seems like they found common ground. The fact that the cars can be altered after the sprint race, even though they're in park-firm conditions, is the most important change that's been accepted widely by the F1 teams. But this is not really fun for the viewers. And at the end of the day, we must not forget one very important thing about Domenicali and his view of the sport. It's all about the fans. That's why changes have been proposed from his side. And as of now, there are two very important proposals that the F1 president is ready to put on the table. When talking about this on the Race F1 podcast, about what's the most important part of the sprint races of today and what's attracting people to watch it, Stefano said to have something to fight for on the track that could be seen as relevant for people, for the media to talk about, and not to arrive on Friday to do some laps, where people who are new are attracted by something that is incredible but don't understand what's happening. So the principle was, I do believe, totally correct, and I do believe that you have some statistics on it. But that point has been cleared. Then, if you think about it, the first step is not the format, but the evolution of the session. It was different from what we have today, and we need to give him credit for that. He managed to turn one of the most boring snooze fests of the entire weekend into something admirable to watch. Prior to the latest changes in 2023, the drivers were very careful in the sprint race and weren't risking anything because they could have lost a lot and gained literally nothing from their tries. And despite this surge in popularity of the sprint races, there's still a possibility for more changes. Two, to be more precise. Adding more on this and saying what those changes would potentially be, Domenicali said, I think that today, in terms of the evolution of the sessions, it is right. And then on top of that, I do believe there are possibilities to extend two things which we need to discuss both with the drivers and the teams, and of course with the FIA. Can we apply the sprint race format to more races? Is this the right formula with the possibility of having a reverse grid as we were doing with Formula 2 and Formula 3? These are points of discussion. Make no mistake, this is going to create a lot of drama among the drivers. Although they've all agreed on the fact that Formula One needs to be a bit closer in terms of drama with the drivers, especially when it comes to the sprint event, they've also said that over-pushing things could ruin the sport in general. And the reverse grid has been quite a controversial topic to talk about, with many drivers opposing it, because they would most likely try and set the slowest time during the sprint in order to start at the front. Reverse grids work in a very special way and don't need much explanation. Basically, the one who gets pole position for the sprint race is going to start the sprint race P10, and the one who finishes P10 is going to be on pole. That order would be followed for the drivers who qualify for P2, P3, and P4, as they would start P9, P8, and P7, with P5 and P6 switching positions as well. It's an interesting concept, but the thing is that the pole sitter in Formula 2 sprint races starts on pole for the main event. In this new proposal of Domenicali, we still have no idea whether that would be the case. If it's the case, then the critics and the negative comments would be diminished. But if the drivers are forced to go through another qualifying session just to prove their one-lap speed, then there will be a lot of problems. We know how sensitive this sport is, and one small mistake could mean the difference between P1 and P5. So imagine you have the perfect lap for the sprint race and finish P1, but when the real qualification for Sunday's event comes, you fail and don't even make it to Q3. What a shame of a weekend that would be. It's yet to be decided how this concept is going to work. But at the end of the day, it's all up to the drivers to accept all kinds of offers Domenicali is throwing towards them. And this is not the only change Domenicali wants to apply. He wants to increase the number of sprint races over 1 year. As of now, we have 6 venues in which sprint events apply. But on one occasion, Stefano said that he doesn't see any reason why F1 cannot take inspiration from, let's say, MotoGP and have sprint weekends every week, just like Formula 2 does as well. It's going to be a lot more interesting with the strategy and the midfield shakeup, with some big names potentially falling down under pressure and under wrong tactics. Elaborating further on enlarging the number of F1 sprint weekends, Domenicali said, and I think we're getting there for this to be taken seriously with the teams. The vibes to progress in the direction of having more sprint races are definitely growing. I'm ready to present and discuss not only more sprint races because this is what I see as a request from the promoter who wants to have it, but also because they don't want to change the number of Saturdays and Sundays, but it will change the number of Fridays. Hamilton stated his support for having reverse grids on Saturday because, according to him, it's a perfect way to learn with a different format rather than just 3 practice sessions, a qualifying, and a race. There's been a new opening in F1, and Hamilton recalled the Interlagos race back in 2021, where he had the most fun as he had to overtake for being last. Of course,